Welcome back. Another week to learn and grow and develop and get better. And that's exactly what we're doing this week with my friend, Jordan Montgomery. This week's episode is all about encouragement. It's about encouraging you right now in this season of your life. And ultimately, it's about helping you be an encouraging voice for others. I have been so incredibly blessed to have voices of encouragement in my walk that's kept me going. Other times I've had to dig deep from within, but it's often been somebody else putting courage in me to help me to continue to go. And my hope is that this episode is that for you today, all to inspire you to help do it to other people. There's a Bible verse in Proverbs 16:24. And the net of it is encouragement is sweetness to the soul. Encouragement is sweetness to the soul. It comes from the outside and it gets in and it gets into your bones. It gets into your soul, and we need it because life is hard. I have been so incredibly blessed the last couple of weeks working with organizations all over the country. And the second workshop we did this last Thursday was included about a 4.5 hour drive. And I was just having this moment in a car by myself with 4 hours. And it made me think of something that before we get to the episode, I wanted to share with you today. 10 years ago, I had a dream, like a dream and a vision that one day I wanted to build a company that would allow me the opportunity to encourage others and teach. 10 years ago, I envisioned it. Hey, can I build something that I would have the opportunity to do that? And I was driving back from this workshop with a keynote the very next day, almost living out my dream. 10 years later, I was living out my dream. And my word to you today is to have dreams and chase them. Have dreams and chase them. I hope your dream comes to fruition. I really do. But it's also possible that it doesn't. If it does, it might be better than you ever imagined. If it's not what you thought it was, it still made something out of you to chase it. Jim Rohn says, have goals, and if you achieve them, it's great. But if you don't, it's going to make something out of you to achieve them. And what I love about this quote is that when you have dreams and you chase them, it makes something out of you to try to achieve it. It's like that marathon runner that what their time is not nearly as important as what it makes out of them at mile 13 and mile 14 and mile 15 and all those days where they have to be disciplined and trained to prepare for a marathon. My voice of encouragement today, before we get to Jordan, is to have dreams and chase them. It will make something out of you in the process, and it is worth it to chase meaningful dreams. My hope is this episode with Jordan Montgomery will be a voice of encouragement in your walk so then you can go persevere and ultimately encourage others. Jordan, welcome to the show.
John Eads, thanks for having me, man. You've been such a good friend and supporter over the years, and honored to share a conversation with you.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk a lot about the art of encouragement, and it's a topic that's near and dear to you right now. But before we get there, I wanted to start with a quote, and I'm interested to get your perspective on it. And it's from one of my favorite coaches. His name is Joe Mazzulla. He's just won the NBA championship with the Boston Celtics. I've had a great opportunity to get to know him a little bit. And he said this, he said, praise and criticism are both just as dangerous. If you don't handle them well, winning is just as dangerous as losing. If you don't handle them well. And our guys handled it the right way. And they handled winning and losing the right way, and it made a big difference. I wanted to start here because praise and criticism are both just as dangerous. When I say praise and criticism are both just as dangerous, where does your mind go?
Joe's right. I appreciate the quote. I want to see a leader lose, but I also want to watch a leader win. I had an old mentor. He would say, you could tell a lot about a person watching them play hurt. And so I do think there's a lot to be learned about how leaders handle failure. But John, I think there's a lot to be learned about how leaders handle success, and more specifically, where they place the credit and how they handle the people around them. And so I would agree with Joe. If you don't handle success the right way, and I was probably a pretty good example of that as somebody in my early years, man, I was overexposed and underdeveloped. And I knew my goals, but I didn't really know my values. And so the scary part about knowing your goals and not knowing your values is your goals can actually take you to a place that you never intended to go. And I wasn't really prepared for the platform that I was going to have, or the opportunity that I was going to steward. And so, yeah, man, I would sign off on what Joe said entirely.
Let's dig into this. You've got goals, but you're underdeveloped. You've got values, but you had goals, but not values. Tell me more about why values are so important when the success happens.
I think it's because we live in a world that overvalues charisma and undervalues character. So you think about, especially the corporate world today, man, we love results, but we don't necessarily value character or culture. I think this shows up even in how we praise individuals or how we treat individuals. You know, like we tend to live in a do culture where we prioritize the do over the who. In other words, we want to praise somebody for what they do instead of praising people for who they are. And both are important, right? We live in a results-based world. And so you need to praise the result. You need to praise the do. But I think if we asked our listeners to reflect back on the most encouraging conversations they've ever had, you know, where somebody really spoke life and breathed belief into them, I think they would say, yeah, it was actually when that person pulled me aside to talk to me about my qualities or my abilities or my character, the things that God gave me. Like I could say to you, hey, John, I'm so impressed with all that you're doing. Man, the books, the podcast, your company, the organizations you're reaching, dude, you're a brilliant mind. I don't even know how you're keeping it all together. You are doing so much at such a high level, man. I'm impressed with what you're doing. Keep it going. And my hope is that would mean something to you, you know, but it wouldn't probably mean as much as if I pulled you aside to say, hey, John, you are just one of the kindest people I've ever met. I think you're really intuitive. And I think one of the things that you look for with your intuition is people that you can serve, help, and impact. I think God's given you an ability to see things in people and to look for opportunities, and you just see things that other people don't see. That's a God-given gift. Like John Eads has a God-given gift of intuition to see things in people and see things about people that other people don't see. And I actually think it's that gift inside of you. It's who you are that's allowing you to do what you do.
I can tell you which one felt better. I can tell you which one felt better.
That's just an example of praising the who over the do. We live in a culture that wants to praise the do and so many times forgets the who.
And it's for everybody listening. I want you to know how that just felt. You felt seen. You feel heard. You feel like somebody cares about something beyond just what I'm going to deliver on that particular day for them. And many times when it's your boss. And it's heartwarming almost. It's like, man, what more could I do for Jordan? And that's the beautiful part about encouragement, isn't it? Let's almost back up. What is encouragement?
Well, I think encouragement is about putting courage into people. And I think it's ultimately about helping people with their most basic psychological need, which is the need to feel known and valued. I think all of us want to know that our life matters. We want to know that we're created for a purpose. We belong to something. Innately, that's inside of us, you know, and for many of us, it's a subconscious thing. It's not like we're walking around all day, every day saying, I wonder if people see me. And I wonder if, you know, do they really value me? I just think it's like, man, you know, when someone makes you feel known, you know how that feels. It's such an important, basic psychological need. And so that's really the reason we wrote the book, John, is we want to help people feel that way. But the other reason we wrote the book is there's too many leaders that overestimate their ability to make people feel that way. We tend to view encouragement as a do or don't topic. Like I do encourage people or I don't encourage people. I am an encourager, or you know what? I'm not really an encourager. The reality is all of us speak this language. It's a universal language that the whole world understands. We all know how to do it. We all know how it feels. It's not about a style. It's a choice. And when I think when you speak the language of encouragement and you understand that it's actually an art and a science, it's actually fairly complex. There's a lot that goes into it. Man, you can make people feel known, seen, valued, and understood. And so that's a little bit of what encouragement means to me, and maybe a little bit more about why we wrote this book.
Well, what do you say to leaders that say, that's why we're paying them, just toughen up? Like, at every turn, do I need to encourage them and praise them and provide them recognition? I mean, we're already giving them a paycheck. What do you say to leaders like that? Is it a generational thing? Are they wrong? Are they right? Where's your mind go?
Yeah, I just probably have them take off their CEO hat or their manager hat, their sales leader hat, and just put on the human hat. You know, like let's just talk about what God called you to. Man, God called you to love people and to be kind and to be caring. And so when I think about being loving and kind and caring, I think about this quote from our mutual friend, John Gordon, who said, I'm not positive because life is easy. I'm positive because life is difficult. And so if you take out the word positive and you put in the word encouraging, the same thing is true. Like, man, John, I'm not encouraging because life is easy. I'm encouraging because it's difficult. And what I know about the people on our team and what I know about the clients that we serve is they're dealing with some really heavy stuff. Some of it we know about, some of it we don't. But I think as humans, if we knew all the battles that people were really facing and the challenges that were really in front of them and how they really felt about themselves, then man, we'd be a whole lot more encouraging. And so it's gotta be more than I gave them a paycheck. They should feel grateful. It's like, bro, you were called to more than that, man. Like you were created with gifts and abilities. And I think God wants us to use those gifts and abilities to recognize others and encourage the people around us.
You know, there's the very first episode I ever did of this podcast. I will never forget. A man I respect a great deal. He said, John, everybody's going through something, whether you know it or not. And if all the things I've heard, it stuck with me because you see from the outside, Jordan, someone's got this great life, or they got the car, they got the house, they got the business. Something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, to have somebody, a friend, a boss, a colleague that will pour into them, that will encourage them to keep going, or not even just minimize the size of the problem or the size of the thing. It's real to them. What a great thought. Everybody's going through something whether you know it or not, and how powerful encouragement can be to that.
It's the truth, man. We're all fighting a battle that people don't know about, you know, all of us. I mean, that's true for you. It's true for me. That's true for everybody walking this planet.
Why encouragement for you right now? Why this book? Why this topic specifically for Jordan Montgomery?
Well, I felt a responsibility, man. I went through something really difficult at 27. And you know a little bit about my story, John. I got fired from a Fortune 100 company when I felt like I was sort of on top of the world. And again, I was overexposed, underdeveloped. My character wasn't keeping pace with my influence. But man, I thought I had it all figured out, and my world got rocked. I got fired. I got let go. There was a person on my team who took a test on my behalf. I didn't report it. But my leader at the time essentially said, it's not really just about the test. It's about the fact that you're not dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I just don't trust your character. You have all of your eggs in one basket, and it's the basket of success. And what he was really saying is, man, I want you to move to significance. And so that was a really hard season for me, John. Like I was broken, man. It was so public, and I was unbelievably embarrassed. I mean, for a young man, for a 27-year-old guy who found all of his identity in his achievement, when that thing was taken away, it just rocked me. The company sent out a company-wide email with my name on it. I got 3,000 text messages in a 24-hour period. I just kind of went into a hole, man. It was so difficult. Now, God redeemed and restored. I got out of that hole. I had a guy by the name of Tim Bohannon who gave me a second opportunity. Same firm, actually, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I moved north for 2 years. Tim said, this is how it's going to work. You're not going to speak. You're not going to train. You're not going to lead or teach. You're just going to rebuild your business and rebuild your life, and I'm going to help you do it. And it wasn't like this warm, fuzzy, unicorn rainbows type season with Tim. It was a candid season. Like, Tim was firm with me. He was very direct, but he was unbelievably caring, very gracious, very, very loving. And for 2 years, man, I felt encouragement from Tim Bohannon and the people around him that I had never felt before. And I felt a responsibility, like somebody had been so kind to me, so caring with me. The first chapter of this book, The Art of Encouragement, is about this season with Tim. And I just felt like, man, I want to help people be a Tim Bohannon to somebody else. And I felt a responsibility to write about Tim's authenticity, his service to others, the way that he cared, and ultimately the way that he treated me.
And it revealed itself in The Art of Encouragement.
It did. Yeah. What I would say about that, John, just one more thing on Tim is, like, Tim is masterful. Like, this, it came natural to him, but it doesn't come natural to most people. There's an art and a science to encouraging other people. And I wanted to make people aware of the art and science, not because I have all the answers, but because I've been able to watch some leaders like Tim. I've been able to be around leaders like John Eads, people who are world-class at encouraging others. And so it's just really a culmination of my life's experience and some observations.
A lot of people will say, well, I need encouragement, Jordan. I need it right now. My life's a struggle. What should they do?
If you want to be encouraged, encourage others. You know,
So
you want
true.
an encouragement, man, start encouraging. It's like, if you want to be a connected person, start connecting. Connecting people are connected people. Encouraging people are encouraged people. Tim used to always say this. He'd say, the world is a looking glass, and it gives back to each person a reflection of their own image. And that's just true, man. The most encouraging people that I know are also the most joy-filled. They have peace and joy and contentment, and their life's not perfect, but they're living a reflection, you know, of what they're putting out. And so, yeah, man, you want to be encouraged. And I know that's hard. There's some people listening who don't feel like encouraging someone. Like, maybe you're going through something really, really, really tough right now. I want to acknowledge that. But I believe this, there can be real hurt and brokenness. I think about the Apostle Paul in a jail cell, you know, writing in the book of Philippians, you know, like, man,
Can you imagine?
So poor.
Can you imagine, though?
Yeah.
Like, to be there in that environment, writing what he wrote.
Like, no.
Wouldn't he just be thinking about himself and the terrible situation that he's in and how he had been buried? I mean, it makes me think of that quote, you know, being buried and not planted. And it's like,
yeah,
it's just amazing. We always think the things in our world are so dire, and they're real. And I want to acknowledge them like you are, but boy, what an example.
He was, man. He is. He was, and he is. The book of Philippians is one of the most encouraging books that you could read. And he wrote it from a cell with the worst circumstances. So I don't say that to alienate someone who's listening, who's dealing with difficult circumstances, but I do say that to say this: you can still find ways to be a blessing to others and to encourage others, even when your circumstances aren't ideal. And if you want to be encouraged, I think you have to start encouraging. John, you're so good at this, man. You do this at such a high level. You do this on social media, you do it with your podcast, you do it just in organic conversation. Let me throw that question back to you. How, you know, what would you say to somebody who says, man, I need encouragement. What should I do?
I'd coach it the same way you did. I'd say you got to start by encouraging somebody else. And then the second thing I would say is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they encouraging voices, or are they people that tear you down? Because the hardest part is that we have this built-in network when we're part of a family, or we marry into a family, or who the guys we went to high school with, or the girls we went to high school with, or whoever, just whatever town you're in. You have this kind of built-in network. And the reality is, many of the people in that built-in network don't actually help encourage you. They actually do the opposite. And it's a little bit like you said earlier, you network to get to build the network, you got to surround yourself with good people, even if it's not every day. It's like, hey, when I need it, do I have someone I can call that will speak life, breathe life into me?
Yeah.
Not in a
Good.
selfish way, not in a selfish way, but I think you exude that. And I think you got to build a network of people that build you up, don't tear you down. Those are the two things. Give first, and then
Yep.
surround yourself with people that build you up, because the
So
world's
good.
hard enough, man.
Yeah. True.
You've built a business, you got torn down. It doesn't matter how good it looks on the outside. There's stuff going on, and you need people that are gonna breathe life into you. I mean,
So true, man. I want our leaders to hear this, because there's something you did recently that was actually really encouraging. But it gets back to a point that you just made about the circle, who's really pulling for you, who are you surrounding yourself with. Lewis Howes posted this the other day. He said, when you're winning, pay attention to the people who are clapping loudly. Because I think what happens is sometimes, John, when we win, our closest friends and family, like, they're happy for us. They're like, it's like the golf clap, right? They're like, good for you. Like, I'm happy, But then there's some people who are like, yes, like, I'm so happy, John, that you're winning. Like, I'm thrilled for you. And they might not say it like that. Everybody's got a different style, but you can just tell, like, they're just really invested in you doing well. I want our listeners to hear this. We haven't connected in a little bit. It was a post on LinkedIn. You sent me a message, and it was like the kindest, most encouraging message. And you're like, hey, Jordan, I just see you wrote this book. Happy for you. I want to help you promote it. Like, I just love to have you on the podcast. Let's promote the book. Like, out of nowhere, here comes John Eads to elevate, to promote, to encourage, to be a blessing, to clap loudly in my corner, when we put some time and effort into this book. And so you were an example of that, even though we hadn't talked in a while. Like, be the John Eads who swoops in, who sends the message, the proverbial message. I want to help you. I want to promote you. I want to elevate you. I want more people to know about the good things that you're doing. Like, I am clapping loudly for you. I think many of us are guilty of the golf clap when our friends win.
I would even take it a step further. I would take it a step further. I think many people aren't guilty of the golf clap. I think they're guilty of jealousy.
Well, that is true as well.
I think
the golf clap oftentimes is a sign of that. Don't you think? It's like,
it could be
the obligatory, like, good job.
Yeah, it's almost like the yeah, you're right. And I was talking, my wife and I had coffee outside this morning before the kids got up, and you don't always know how these conversations are going to go. And it was one of the most fruitful discussions we've had in years, 13 years of marriage. And she's talking about her tennis game. And her tennis partner hits the ball much harder than her. She's got like a big forehand. And when somebody sees it, they're like, ooh, ah, it's like that kind of hard hit. And her first reaction is jealousy. Her first reaction is, well, like, look at me. I'm playing really well too. And then she said something like, it showed her growth. She said, but I know that's not right. And I think there's some of that in life, that when you celebrate when people are doing things well, particularly authentic people that it aren't just egotistical and driven takers of the world, man, you just like to celebrate it. And I appreciate you saying that about me. But the reality is, I don't get that way without seeing other people do it for me. Or take John Gordon, our mutual friend. I mean, I reach out to this out of the blue, and he willingly helped me for years. He barely knew me, Jordan. Pat Lencioni barely knew me, went out of his way to write for the book. Like, you just try to pay it forward, and you're doing it today. And I just appreciate it. We need it, man. We need it really bad. I wanted to go two other places with encouragement, because a lot of people will say, John, that is just soft. And let's take Fran McCaffrey as an example. Your guy, Iowa Hawkeye. You watch Fran McCaffrey. If you don't know, Fran McCaffrey's a hard-nosed college basketball coach. He looks like he is mad when he wakes up on TV. Okay. You've gotten to know him well. not everybody exudes this facial expression, this outward side of encouragement. Does it matter if someone is encouraging in public or in private? Because I'm assuming he's an encouraging guy in private.
Yeah, Fran's an interesting case study because he is really intense. And the public sees the really intense side of him. He's one of the most caring guys in private, but he's also a player's coach. So I'm going to make a point here that actually applies to Fran, although it's going to sound like it doesn't. When you praise somebody in private, they might remember it. When you praise them in public, they'll never forget it. Fran McCaffrey has mastered the art of the post-game press conference as it relates to praise and encouragement. I mean, he could be, madder than a hornet on the court. Like he can just be, he's furious, red face, getting after the refs or whatever. But man, you watch that guy love on his dudes in a post-game press conference, even those who have a bad game or they do something silly or like somebody's in the doghouse, like publicly, he is very quick to give acknowledgement to his players. And I think it's because he understands the art of elevating encouragement, which is like, hey, if I have the microphone, proverbial or like if I actually have it, I'm going to take a chance to light somebody up because I know inherently he knows that if he praises them in private, they might remember it. If he praises them in public, they'll never forget it. And it probably more than almost any other coach. So this is a kind of a nerdy thing about us, John. We watch a lot of post-game press conferences.
Yeah, I love them.
You learn so much about people and leadership, and there's emotion and just how people react to stuff. And you and I both have a communication company, a leadership company. So we study the art of communication. So I just nerd out to watching people in a post-game press conference in any sport, really. Men's, women's, doesn't matter. But probably more than anybody I've ever watched, Fran McCaffrey shouts people out. If he has the microphone, you're going to hear 10, 12, 15 names, guys on his team, guys on the other team, the other coach, a donor, another one of his coaches. He just makes it his mission to elevate as many people as he can. I've never really shared that with Fran. I'm not even sure if Fran realizes he does that. But somebody who's masterful at encouraging people when they have the proverbial microphone, whether they're in the boardroom or the locker room, they're with their family, they're in the community or the workplace. I think they make it their mission to light people up and elevate people in a public setting.
Make it your mission to encourage somebody. I mean, that idea, just that. If you take nothing else away from today, you don't know who Fran McCaffrey is, you don't know who, it doesn't matter. Make it your mission to encourage someone today. Boy, is it needed. And, when you were saying that, Jordan, I kept thinking, I wonder if it means more to the players. When you got a hard ass that's no BS, that gets after you and has really high standards, it would be a safe assumption to assume that person doesn't give out the encouragement very much. Mm-hmm. But when that tough leader is willing and able to give out encouragement, I bet you it means more than the softy that's giving it out every single turn of the day.
Well, it's true. And here's why. It's received as authentic. Like authentic encouragement. I mean, how many of us are guilty? I'm guilty. How many times in my life have I said to somebody, like I'd say to you, maybe I'd say, hey, John, way to go, man. Keep it up. Hey, John, you're the man. You're the best. I have certain leaders that will say the same thing to me over and over. They don't even know, but year in and year out or month in and month out, it's like they say the same thing. And I'm like, I've heard you say it to 100 other people. Like, could you say something that's unique and different? I'll tell you a quick story on authentic encouragement, man. Tim Bohannon paid for a coaching session with a guy named Bob Tykert. Bob Tykert's this old school coach, hard nosed. This dude's like, no BS. Tim knew I was going through a tough time and I needed some tough love. So he said, hey, I paid for a session with Bob Tykert. Bob's in a conference room. He's waiting for you. Go see him. So I walked down to Bob's office. Now, Bob coaches Tim, so I naturally have respect for Bob. I walk into the office that Bob's sitting in with my 27-year-old inauthentic energy. Bob's in a jet black suit, red tie, hair slicked back. He looks at me and he says, hey, Jordan. And I say, Bob Tykert. I said, man, it is so good to meet you. I said, I have heard so many good things about you, man. And Bob says, like what? And I say, oh man, just, so many things, like just all kinds of things. And I'm like, this is not going well. And I could tell he's like really questioning, my comments. And he doesn't say anything. We sit down, and now it's like 10 seconds of awkward silence. And I could tell he's not real happy. And he looks at me and he says, Jordan, I think you're full of it. He said, and I think you have an authenticity problem. And I want to help you with that. And man, I was in a bad way at 27 years old. I just gone through all that professional, stuff. And I just bawled right there in front of him, man. I'd known the guy for 2 minutes. I just cried in front of him. And we had this powerful hour-long conversation about what it means to be an authentic person. And I walked out of that office and I thought, man, I'm never going to let that happen again, where I have something nice to say about someone without substance to support it. So back to this idea of authenticity, I think our culture needs encouragers who can attach a story, an example, something specific, something real, something tangible to the encouraging message.
So let's get, is there a formula? So it's substance to support it. Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's just words plus substance. It's real simple. I'm a simple guy from the cornfields of Iowa, John. So, I can't do anything complex. But yeah, that's it, man. It's just like, hey, if I'm gonna give John Eads a compliment, I gotta put some substance behind it. Like, so if I were to say to you, John, you're one of the best podcasters. Okay, like, man, you're such a great podcaster. I need to support that comment with the why behind the what. Like, I got to give the substance. Here's why I believe that. You're a great question asker. You're a great conversationalist. You know the perfect balance between the question to ask and the commentary to give. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to that, but you have a really good balance. And a lot of that's just your experience. But again, there's some intuition and ability to understand pace of conversation and what's easy for the listener to digest. And so, man, you're a great podcaster.
I want everybody to hear the difference. And it's not about me. I'm saying the formula is words plus substance. If you're going to encourage somebody, words plus substance. He wasn't just, you're a great podcaster, very specific, tangible evidence to support it. And it, again, I'll go back to the beginning. It made me feel known and seen and heard. Now, you do this for a living and it's great. That's why we bounce ideas well off each other. But I think if anyone's out there looking for a formula that is as smart as me, which means it's got to be pretty low, it's a low bar. It's just words plus the substance.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You just got to put something behind the comment, and don't be a person who walks around giving the proverbial high fives and fist pounds without putting something behind it. Yeah. Because we live in an inauthentic world. Social media makes it harder every single day. Comparison is a killer. It makes you feel either inferior or superior. Neither one of those things honors God. We got to be really careful that we don't compare ourselves to other people. We need people authentically helping people feel seen, known, valued, and understood. You're not like anybody else, John. You're different. I don't want you to compare. I want to authentically love on you, care for you, and encourage you. You were made to be John Eads and nobody else.
It's great, man. And I want to end on some fun stuff here. You're a dad. Your family's changed. It's grown. You've got business. What's harder, leading at work or leading at home?
Oh, not even close, man. Leading at home, man. Come on. Yeah. I mean, I think for a couple of reasons, right? There's a higher bar. But also like kids is, man, Luke Combs just wrote this new song. Our listeners should listen to this. You might hate country music. I don't care.
No, I love country music.
I know you like country music. I'm saying our listeners might be like, I'm not listening to Luke Combs. Okay. I think it's called Hunting Alone. I don't hunt. Hunting by yourself. This song will bring you to tears. Luke Combs talks about hunting by himself. And he's like, the whole thing is like, I'm hunting with my child and my kid is loud. Like he's talking too loud and he's moving all over the place. We can't shoot anything because he doesn't, he's not sitting still. And it's like, it's driving him nuts. But the point of the story is like, someday I'm going to be hunting by myself and I'm going to miss the fact that you moved and you talk too loud. So this interesting dichotomy with parenting, I know you can relate, John. It's like, it is the best gift. It is the greatest joy. And it is also one of the greatest challenges. And so I think managing the emotion of parenting, being a good example, they're watching everything that we do. It's probably a moment every single day where I'm like, the other day I was watching a pimple popper show.
Hmm.
And this is embarrassing. I don't even know why I mentioned it. Okay. My 5-year-old, she's almost 5. She turns 5 tomorrow. She climbs up in my lap. I probably should have turned the show off, and I just left it on. And so she's watching like the pimple popper pop pimples. And then the other day she says to me, she's like, Daddy, why I get all those bumps? Like, do I have those big sores? And she's like nervous about getting sores. I'm like, oh dear God, I let her watch. So there's a higher bar at home, and I got to do a better job of leading by example. My final answer, John, is leading at home.
I like it. I like and you just did this a second ago, but I just want to give you the platform for a minute or two to encourage our audience. If everybody doesn't have an encouraging voice in their life, I'm so blessed to have encouraging voices in my life, and I don't know if you do. And for the next 30 seconds or a minute, you've got Jordan Montgomery. The floor is yours.
Well, I'll just go back to some of the ways that people encouraged me. My dad said to me when I was going through a really tough time at 27 and my whole life was falling apart. And I said, man, it's dark, Dad. Like, I'm in a bad way. It's really dark. And he said, it might be dark, but you haven't been buried. You've been planted. And God can do amazing things from the ashes. And what I've just learned, John, is that oftentimes God's preparation is packaged as pain. And our greatest hurt usually becomes our deepest ministry. And so if you're going through something right now, just trust that, like, number one, you're going to get through it. Like, you'll get through it. You've gotten through other tough stuff before. There's light at the end of the tunnel, regardless of how severe or big this thing, even if you're dealing with something like a sickness and you don't know if you're going to make it through. Hey, like, this is not our home. Heaven is your home. Like, God makes all things new, even the hardest and toughest of things. So you're going to get through it. But here's the coolest thing. You're going to be able to help people in some really unique and interesting ways because of what you're going through right now. The very thing that's crushing you is going to allow you to reach people and teach people and touch people in a unique way. You are most qualified to help the person you used to be. I think, John, I have a unique ability right now to touch people who are crushed because I know what it's like to be crushed. I know what it's like to be humiliated, publicly embarrassed, totally broken, lose all my money, lose my reputation. I've been there. And I think because of that, I have a heart for people who are going through that. So tell you what, if somebody listening has a question, I try to respond to everything. I might not be able to get to every message, so forgive me. I just ask for grace up front. But if you're hearing this and you're like, I'm crushed, send me a message. Send me a direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'll try to rap with you and shoot you some encouraging notes and verses back that have been helpful in my life. So I just offer that to anybody listening.
Jordan, we're really grateful for the time you gave us today. We're grateful for your encouragement for me. It was like it's just great. I just loved it. I appreciate you making the time to do it. I'm really excited for the new book, The Art of Encouragement. You can get it wherever books are sold. You can go to montgomerycompanies.com, all kinds of places. We'll link to them in the show notes. Jordan Montgomery, thanks for being here.